the state of Golden State feels so 50-50 with everything right now, and I hate to kind of use that cop-out answer, but like going into it, yeah, I've been pretty on the Jonathan Kuminga beat with that trade rumors and everything starting back in the summer of his restricted free agency. Then we've seen what his situation has turned into, where he's definitely on the back burner of Steve Kerr's mind and got out of the rotation and everything. And a big part of it was that Steve didn't think that he fit with an offense that had especially Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, some people that need the ball in their hands together like that.
Everybody, welcome back to the KO'd Convo podcast. Keenan and Dalton coming at you on this fine Thursday. Got a good episode for you. Turned into a good friend of mine, fellow Petaluma guy, Dalton Johnson, NBC Sports Bay Area, covers all things Golden State Warriors. Quite the beat, if I must say so myself. But Dalton, I know you're a busy guy, so I really appreciate you, finding the time, hopping on here today and talking shop with me for a little bit.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me, Keenan. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah. So, how the heck did you get to start covering the Golden State Warriors, especially on a network such as, NBC Sports Bay Area, which is huge around these parts?
Man, it's honestly a long journey. I mean, my timing of even being at NBC was wild. Joined there in April of 2015, so less than a year since I graduated and was done playing college sports, anything like that. I was in town working for like a publishing company that helped publish a Giants World Series book, and I was still doing some stuff with the Argus and writing in different places online. And I actually did more like a meet and greet with some people at NBC more than anything else. So it was like very Petaluma, right? Where a family friend of a wife of a husband knows a person there, and hey, it'd be good for you to just meet this person. I was coaching JV baseball at the time, and like for a Petaluma High, and again, connection, boom, boom, boom. Okay, sure, I'll show up. Like, why not? And totally went into it as, hey, this is just going to be nice to know you if you ever have anything down the line. And I'm talking to a guy named Jeff James, who was like the head of digital at the time at NBC. And we're talking and just about how things go there. And he's kind of like, hey, like, this is going good. Like, I really like you. I want you to meet a guy named Nate, who at the time was kind of like the manager of like what my position wound up being there. Same thing. We're just having a conversation. And it kind of hit me. I'm like, is this just an interview or a conversation? What's going on here? And I came to find out that a person was just about to leave, actually, and a spot was going to open up there. She left to work with the Giants and all this stuff. And I was leaving like 2 days later to go back to Savannah, where I went to college, for St. Patty's Day to have some fun with some college friends. And I'm like, I'm literally leaving tomorrow. And they're like, I don't care if it's on the plane or whatever. Just fill out like this writing sample, get back to us. So I'm on Southwest Airlines typing away. Like, okay, I need to get this out. I need to make sure I focus and do this before I go back to Savannah with my college friends. I got back, and 2 days later, they were like, hey, the job is yours if you want it. And that job was what we call like the desk, basically, where at that time, so many things were way different in the industry and at NBC in 2015. I was running back and helping clip video. I was doing headlines. I was copy editing. I was kind of like mapping the entire website and doing some social media, writing quick little blogs. And really, it was that as my base, and slowly but surely kind of opening up new doors. I really helped our minor league baseball coverage there. It was something that I saw just wasn't really covered a ton. We have one great reporter that does stuff on the Giants, and it's a 162 game season. It's not easy to be able to cover those bases too. So I was doing that, and that's the first time that I got any airtime. So that really helped me out there as well. And then it was actually like right when the 2021-22 NBA season was starting, Kendra Andrews was working with us, and she actually moved over towards ESPN. And just to kind of like, okay, like the season's already here. Dalton, can you start going to some Warriors games? And then it was like, all right, yeah, like this is your thing now. So I started working alongside Monty Poole, and slowly but surely kind of opened more doors there on the Warriors side, and have really been part of the TV part of it, pregame, postgame, Dubs Talk Live, all of that. The last 2-3 seasons, I would say. The last 2, like very, very firmly. The last 2-3 though. So it's a strange long road, as you know, in this media game, and you got to kind of find your doors when you can and take advantage of them. And luckily was able to not open some up on my own, and some others opened up on their own, and it just kind of ran through the door.
Yeah, that's wild. If you haven't seen any of Dalton's stuff, I highly recommend it. He's always gotten sporting the nice little puffy little jacket he's got going. And that he makes his own. But how kind of backtracking a little bit, you said you played sports in college and you went down to college in Georgia, is that right?
That's right, yeah. So I Petaluma guy, as you mentioned, baseball, basketball, football, even soccer growing up. Kind of went more towards baseball, football after my first 2 years in high school. Knew that was more of like the route for me, possibly at the next level. And then baseball was always probably my ticket towards that for college. Another weird long road as far as that goes too, where in high school, originally committed to Loyola Marymount to play baseball there. About a month into the summer, they had a bunch of coaching changes, and it was not going to be a good, situation for me as far as that went. And so I stayed back and did Santa Rosa Junior College, which something that if you're local, I feel like going into it, you're in high school, you're an athlete, and you become so anti JC because I have a big head. I'm 16, 17, 18. I think I'm better than that. And I find out that was the complete opposite of the truth, and that the JC wound up being the best thing for me career-wise, as a man, as a baseball player, all of that. And had 2 good years there, learned so much under Damon and the coaching staff. Originally committed to a D1 in North Carolina, had some weird issues there, and wound up in Savannah, Georgia at a small school called Armstrong State that I would have never heard of, never expected that I'd be in Georgia. And, again, where these kind of opportunities just kind of arise. And next thing I know, I have 5 teammates at my wedding, so that ended up being a great situation for me when I had no idea what it was going to be going into it. So wound up in Savannah, Georgia, of all places, and played 2 years of ball there. And, couldn't imagine not being there with all the experiences I wound up having.
Armstrong State. Shout out Armstrong.
It's not even
State.
A school anymore, Keenan.
My gosh.
Like, it literally has been absorbed from Georgia Southern. Like, that is D2 baseball life right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So you're down in Savannah, Georgia. Did you ever think about trying out for the Bananas, or were they even there at that time? What?
So they weren't there at that time, but like another connection thing. So when I'm there, the New York Mets had their single A team. They're called the Savannah Sand Gnats.
Yeah.
And those were fun nights. Like it was this old stadium called Grayson Stadium where the Bananas play, but they've renovated the whole thing. And our Armstrong, we got to play there like 2-3 times a year. And I mean, this place is so old, like Babe Ruth played there and stuff. And like the dugouts are like for people that are like 5'4" and below, it's from like 1920. So you're crawling through, but you can feel the nostalgia. You can feel the history of the ballpark. So really, really cool. We would go to games as much as we could, but it was definitely like not up to date for a minor league team by any means. So I think that my senior year was their last year there. I think that they moved to Charleston. And there's this great ballpark kind of just sitting there. And I think his name is Jesse Cole, the guy with the yellow tuxedo that we always see with the Sand Gnats. He takes advantage of it. But he sees the opportunity, obviously. But my roommate, my senior year, a guy named Barry Aldridge, he winds up working for the Savannah Bananas when they're like first being created in like concessions or something. But he knows ball. He's always been around baseball. So they kind of started to pick his brain a little bit. And now he's traveled around. He's helped pick the teams out and everything. And now the Bananas are the biggest thing in Savannah. So I unfortunately didn't get to experience it. But now I watch it from afar, and I remember when he was first telling me about the bananas and sent me a hat and a shirt, and I'm like, yeah, I'll wear this. This is cool. 2 years later, I'm at the airport, and every little kid is wearing a bananas hat. It's the way it's blown up has been wild to watch, Keenan.
They're selling out like football stadiums.
Yes.
It's just like, are you kidding me? And kind of going back a little sports knowledge here. I'm pretty sure the Charleston team is out like the River Dogs or something like that. Down in
Yeah.
Charleston.
I love minor league teams are the best.
Oh, the names are. I will never forget the Iron Pigs. The Iron Pigs. You got the Akron Rubber Ducks, the Toledo Mud Hens. You got all these. It's always like the lower minor league teams that are the best. You know, like the Triple A's.
It's a family experience always with minor league baseball. You know,
I know. So, you mentioned like your background, obviously, in like writing and stuff like that. How big was the learning curve? Obviously, now you're such a professional at it, but in terms of, the learning curve of being on camera and getting used to being on camera, delivering a spot, having all what you're going to say in your mind without saying the ums and the ahs and all that other stuff. Kind of, what was that learning curve like for you?
Big learning curve. I never thought that I would be an on-screen person at all, to be honest with you. Like we didn't have that background in college. Like there wasn't a school TV station or anything like that. I worked for the school paper when I was in Savannah. First started doing like the school paper at Santa Rosa Junior College my sophomore year, and then did it in Savannah. My junior year, I was like our sports columnist. Senior year, I was our sports editor, still writing a column also. But I'm someone who naturally talks really, really fast. Thanks a lot, Mom and Dad. Grew up with a little bit of a stutter growing up. All those type of things that weren't in my favor to be on camera at all. And again, like I never even asked for that at NBC. And the first time I was, I think, ever thrown on TV, I'm in the office with just like a hoodie on. But I happen to write this Tim Lincecum column that they really liked. And they're like, hey, how about you talk about it for 2 minutes, whatever. And it was super nerve-wracking. And I think what's really helped me, number one, is being around great people who make it fun. I mean, people like for the Warriors, when you watch us, with Bonte Hill and Festus Ezeli and Chris Mullen and getting to do it with Monty Poole and Kareth Burke and Zena Keita and these people that are, number one, professional, but they make it fun. And that was my thing, is I was trying to be so I know my stuff. I need to show that I was kind of losing a little bit of my personality, I felt like, at the beginning. And that's kind of where some of the stutter or the talking fast would come back. And it's at the end of the day, hey, my office is Chase Center. Steph Curry is shooting right behind me. Why don't I have some fun with this, So I think that's really kind of helped me to slow down and to know that, yeah, I'm going to spit some knowledge and throw some numbers out there, no doubt about it. But you got to have fun with it at the end of the day. Like, people want to be entertained. They want to be able to smile and laugh at you when you're on TV. You need to be able to laugh at yourself, all of that stuff. So I think the last year, honestly, has been like my biggest step with that. Again, being able to work with people who have fun around you has just let me slow down a little bit and kind of like put it off my shoulder so much instead of trying to be so perfect with every word that I say.
Have you been able to kind of take a moment and kind of take it all in where you've been at so far?
Not enough, to be honest with you, I think. I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome, like when I first started being on TV. Even I just mentioned all these names, being so lucky to work with them. But they felt different to me as far as like they're on TV and they're so professional and they look different than me and all these things, and I'm not someone who is perfectly suited up and speaks perfectly like I'm on TV and wears a bunch of makeup. Like, no, I just try to be me, so I felt a lot of imposter syndrome at first, like big time. Like I'm not supposed to be on this show. Like this isn't, it wasn't a handout, but in my mind I was creating, again, hurting myself with the imposter syndrome. And then a lot of people, in town, we have this great community in Petaluma where people would see me and like, everyone somehow knows each other in Petaluma, even with how much it's growing, obviously. But, people, oh, I saw you on TV, this or that. And I didn't know how to react. I kind of was like, oh, haha, like cool. But I still felt like I didn't belong. So it didn't feel natural. And I think now that honestly, to be real with you, having a kid and seeing her when I'm at games and I'm missing her, I'm missing my wife, I'm missing dinner, those type of things. But she's sending me a video or a picture of the kid pointing at me on TV and talking about the Warriors and Steph Curry. That's helped me slow down and reflect and be like, all right, pretty cool. Because like now she's 2 years old. She's starting to understand a little bit better and being like, data's working and data TV. And I'm like, okay, that is something that I can be really proud of. And it's kind of really erased more of the imposter syndrome or the not belonging part. And that's helped me reflect, I think, to be like, hey, like this has been a pretty cool journey in an area that I never expected I'd be at, and to just kind of roll with it and again, have some more fun with it.
Yeah, totally. I think you need to bring back, obviously, talking about, having fun with yourself and, laughing at yourself. You got to bring back the famous Twitter faces or whatever, the on-camera faces. Speaking of laughing at yourself, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. Is there any like sort of feature or piece kind of that you've written about? You mentioned the Lincecum feature, but is there any other features or something that really stand out to you of saying, I was really proud of that one. It might not get the most clicks or anything like that, or most views, or my spot it might not get a lot of eyes or whatever, but I was really proud of that one.
Yeah, I would say a handful, because again, we all watch the games and we love to talk about whatever sport we're watching or covering, and we can throw so many different numbers at people now, and there's so many different outlets that have advanced analytics and stats and this and that. That's great. It's a part of the game. At the end of the day, though, we're talking about people, and I think that's what matters to me most, is being part of the community. As someone who played sports and everything, the thing that you miss the most is it truly is your teammates, the camaraderie with that, the competition with that too. And so I think it's all the kind of the features about people that I've been the most proud of. In the 2022 championship run, I wrote a feature about Jordan Poole and one of his best friends named Jordan Jimenez, who's like his personal photographer. And it was when no one really knew who this guy was, and he goes by J Squared. And just like their story and like how they got to know each other and really connect, like that really opened up like a new way of seeing these guys to me, I think, and I spoke to Jordan's photography professor at Michigan and different people like that saw a different side of him aside from just a basketball player. So I really was proud of that. I have a feature that I think is pinned on my X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, profile now, of Moses Moody that I did last season. Moses is just an incredible young man. Like, he is so wise and mature beyond his age, and it was about poetry and how he's connected to that. And I used this poem that he wrote for Black History Month, and also this one that he did in high school that was like 5 minutes of spoken word, and spoke to him about that, and really liked that, because basketball is so secondary to that. And I think that's what it's about. And then, I think that we both love uncovering things too, right? Where it was the draft like 2 years ago. We always get these emails basically like who is working out for like the Warriors that day. And they won't say, a lot of like the private ones by any means with some of these guys they'll draft, but they'll put out who's going to come to the podium. Like they'll usually have 6 guys there so they can play 3-on-3, and it'll say like their college, or if they played in the G League, if they played overseas, whatever. And I see this name that I've never heard of, this guy named Langston Terry. There's nothing next to it, and I'm like, all right, let me just search this kid a little bit more. And there's like nothing about this kid at all. So I had to text some people being like, who is this? And I had a Warrior source. I'm actually at a Giants game covering it, and I'm like, who is this guy? And they're like, oh, I got a story for you. And so I had to run to the hallway while I'm covering a Giants game to talk to this guy. And the backstory is way too long even for this conversation, for this podcast. but I dove into that and kind of talked a little bit about, just how we see high school sports now and like kind of the weirdness with that, with the money part of it, where it was a big money grab in Georgia with this guy and the personal training, where he came out here for a certain personal trainer. That again, there's a lot of things with youth sports, obviously, as you know, in high school sports, where sometimes the athletes aren't being first when it comes to adults and stuff like that, where I mean, you see some of these documentaries that are coming out now and you're like, how is this going on? And it fit that description. I think like the first draft that I sent in was like 4,000 words. It was something insane. And like, even like my boss had to be like, there's some legal stuff that you can get into, like when it comes to that. Like we have to figure out how to parse through this, and I had to reach out to some people that had to give me some statements. And so again, the features that are about the people, that has always been my heart and soul more than anything else, because we watch the games. I can write about the game, and people will hopefully read it, number one, and take in some knowledge and have some value about that. But when I get to teach anyone about people, that matters so much more to me.
Yeah, totally. Kind of going off that, I think, anybody can write a game, or anyone can read a game, or, but like there's something just so refreshing, about the enterprise stuff, about the investigative stuff. Like, for example, I wrote about it was a couple of years ago. I wrote about this kid, Eric McDonald, who went to Cardinal Newman, who ended up getting in a massive car crash when he was like 12, and ended up having to get like his leg amputated, or one of his legs amputated, or whatever. And he ends up having a prosthetic leg, and then he shows up Newman's JV football team, and then he's also wrestling. So it's like stuff like that. It's like
yeah.
This is sweet.
Yeah.
And they turn out to be like the best people too.
Yeah, of course. Right. Yeah.
It's not just, like, I didn't know if you talked to this Langston kid or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And he was him and his mom, and they were just sweet, and they just wanted it. And that's where, like, I kind of go back to like some of like the youth sports, the high school stuff, where it's like, hey, what matters most? Like, the kids matter most at the end of the day.
Oh, it's 100%. And nowadays, the environment is so skewed.
You know that.
Yeah, I think high school sports politics might be worse than actual politics.
Yeah, that's saying a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's kind of dive real quick into the sports media landscape as a whole, because now you're like fully like enthralled in and stuff like that. Obviously, it's come a long way. No longer, growing up, obviously, I was born in '96, so growing up, the Sports Center, quick highlight shows were the cream of the crop, right? Now it's just the hot take on screaming, on yelling. I don't know. What's kind of your thoughts on the way sports media, especially on TV, has kind of evolved and where it's headed?
Yeah, I think it's sad, to be honest with you. I mean, we grew up with, again, I was just talking about enterprise, and I think about some of like these great writers, these great feature writers, what Sports Illustrated used to be. Where we used to have these magazines, and even ESPN the magazine, and all these different outlets that really, really cared about that, and they cared about storytelling and all that. And yeah, storytelling is a big, broad word, obviously, but it's being devalued way too much in my eyes. And, I see certain journalists and sports journalists in particular that will talk to college kids or the youth and kind of almost persuade them to not go down that road. And I'm not of that. I want to encourage people to go down that path, because I think that right now, more than ever, the truth in journalism, real journalism, matters more than ever. And it's just a very like convoluted, confusing world, because at the same time, like, anyone can have a microphone or a cell phone or go out and say that they're doing public journalism or things like that. And that's just not always the truth. And yeah, you turn on the TV and you see a lot of screaming and yelling and talking heads, and, oh, well, those guys are on ESPN. That must be my ticket. And to me, like, what I would say to younger people is, no, it's not. It is not. And I'm sorry, but you can learn that skill later in life way easier than you can learn what real journalism is and what sourcing is and uncovering a story and just journalism ethics and stuff, because we're losing that. And it hurts me to see that, because I think that journalism should be at such a great state, and it's not. We're seeing just franchise papers be gone and all of that. Local journalism matters so much. You're seeing what's happening in politics, and you're seeing what's happening in a place like Minnesota right now. And look at what like the Star Tribune in Minneapolis is doing. Like, they're doing fantastic work, and these
100%.
photojournalists and all that, like, they are so valuable to us. So I hope that the youth starts to see that with some of the non-sports like revolutions that we're seeing, that they see the importance of great journalism, of real photojournalists. And then also for the younger people, like, yeah, you do have like every opportunity in your hand with a phone, with a microphone, with all of these, where if I'm a young person, I'm in high school, I'm in college, I'm trying to go down this path, I'm like, just create, put it out there. You're going to laugh at yourself 10 years later. That's fine. I randomly found something that I wrote in college like a few days ago, and I was like, oh, this is so bad, but that's all right. And it's supposed to be like that. Get it out there, put it out there, like that matters. Like, create, get it out there. You're going to learn from it, no doubt about it. But I hope that with everything that's going on in the world, that the younger generation can actually like see that the truth matters, that it does, and that real journalism matters, and that, yeah, you can still do a lot with this, and you can have your quick, excuse me, TikTok videos and things like that, and that is such an advantage. We didn't have any of this. I didn't have podcasts or TikToks or Instagram Reels and all of this to get my face and my voice out there. But just know that your best path forward is not just screaming and being a talking head. It's just not. You can learn that later in life if you really, really need to, but it's not going to be your ticket. It's just not.
No, not at all. And the other, going back to your point about the whole opportunities thing, right? You don't know who's watching. You never know who's listening.
No, you don't. Yeah, exactly.
So, I heard something from, to your point, I heard something from Adam Lefko, who's worked his way up on TNT and Warner Brothers and stuff. And he always said, produce something every day, because you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's listening. And he's been very successful, right? Because he started at Bleacher Report, which, is an interesting publication in its own right. But now he's worked his way up, and now he's covering like the French Open and all this other stuff. So, I mean, you truly never know who the heck is listening, and the opportunities can be endless, if you keep pushing forward here. Let's talk Dubs. Dalton, you ready? Because this is, I mean, the Warriors is like, I don't know what's going. Obviously, I'm a lifelong Warriors fan. I think you are too. But it is quite the situation down there at Golden State. We're hearing a lot of things. We're hearing a lot of things about the ownership. We're hearing a lot of things about, what's going to happen now that Jimmy Butler tore his ACL at age whatever. Are we going to make a move for Giannis? Are we not going to make a move for Giannis? All these rumors flying around. In your mind, I mean, what is the state of Golden State right now?
The state of Golden State feels so 50-50 with everything right now, and I hate to kind of use that cop-out answer, but like going into it, yeah, I've been pretty on the Jonathan Kuminga beat with that trade rumors and everything starting back in the summer of his restricted free agency. Then we've seen what his situation has turned into, where he's definitely on the back burner of Steve Kerr's mind and got out of the rotation and everything. And a big part of it was that Steve didn't think that he fit with an offense that had especially Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, some people that need the ball in their hands together like that. Jimmy Butler has been awesome, like awesome. I cannot emphasize how great he was this year with Steph Curry, and then all of a sudden he goes down like that, and we're, oh my God, what's about to happen here? Because I really thought, Keenan, that the way Jimmy was playing, the way that this team was starting to come together, after the beginning of the year where like the schedule was just so wacky and out of their favor with all the back-to-backs, the travel, all that, like it was so tiring, like being on the road at the beginning of the season and just how much they were gone. They weren't able to get any rhythm, you know, and the schedule started to kind of finally flip on their favor. They're taking advantage of it. At the time they had won, I think 12 out of the last 16 games. And it's a freak thing where Jimmy tears his ACL. And at the time, I thought they were one player away. I thought that they were one move at the deadline, using that Kuminga contract and maybe another piece or two to go get somebody. And if they went and got somebody with Steph, with Jimmy, I thought that they had a puncher's chance, because you get them in the playoffs and anything can really happen with Steph Curry. Like, I truly believe that. He's just that guy. And he strikes fear into the opponent that much in the playoffs, especially. Now, Jimmy Butler goes down. What do you do? And then all of a sudden, Jonathan Kuminga gets his first real opportunities. You're like, oh yeah, this guy can score 20 points in 21 minutes. And then he's scoring 10 points in like 9 minutes. And then he goes down with a weird little knee thing. Should hopefully be back tomorrow. That's the hope against the Pistons. We'll see, though. But I mean, the trade deadline's a week away. And I think that there's been a lot of misalignment when it comes to a ton of things. When it comes to Kuminga and his role, when it comes to the young players, when it comes to Steph's timeline. You know, they got bold. They went and got Jimmy Butler last year. No one saw that coming. They thought that they had Kevin Durant coming back. Kevin Durant said, no. I do not want to do this again. I am good on that end. So then
no more Draymond.
No. He was done. He was, hey, I had my time. Thanks. Time to move on. He just knew like the craziness that would surround that. You bring in Jimmy Butler and it works out perfectly. The Giannis dream has never died. Like, never died. It's never died in the walls of Chase Center. It's never died in Joe Lacob's eyes. And now you might have the perfect opportunity to do it. And I say do it now. Because number one, I don't know the exact specifics of it, but like in the offseason, a team like the Heat, who probably have a better package of young players, they can offer a better package of draft picks in the offseason. So if I'm the Warriors right now, I'm basically like, whatever draft pick you want, plus like, you can either look at the Kuminga contract, which is like $23 million, and use a couple other younger players or role player type of contracts to get to that. Because Giannis is at like $56 million, something around there. His contract is almost like completely identical to Jimmy Butler's. You can maybe just use his, which is, yeah, it's tough. It's part of the business, though, where you use his contract after he gets hurt, ship him off. So I just think this. A lot of people are saying, oh, the future, do you really want to like mortgage the entire future? This is not a normal team. Steph Curry's not a normal player. Like, my point, and I kind of did this plea on our pregame show about a week ago that people were noticing, and this isn't a fan thing. To me, like, this is a journalism thing. It's a fact to me that you're never going to draft another Steph Curry. The Warriors, if they have 5 straight number 1 picks overall, they will never draft another Steph Curry. So, like, you're probably already going to not be very good when Steph's gone. So if you have a chance when he's still playing elite at 37, almost 38 years old, then just give yourself a chance. If that means for half a year, if that means a year, that means 2 years. Just hope still matters in sports, you know, and you only get that type of player once, ever. Think about what the Warriors were before Steph Curry got here. It was a
baby.
He's made them now a multi-billion-dollar franchise. So go get it. So much can change while we're talking right now. So much can change in the next week. But I still think that you have to go for it one way or another.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the Warriors have always been pretty bold in that sense. Obviously, you know, KD, Jimmy Butler, stuff like that. I mean, I kind of think back to the Kuminga draft, right? I mean, Kuminga on the draft boards was pretty much at 8, but you know, a lot of people were asking, you know, if they were going to move up. Franz Wagner from Michigan, you know, he was very popular pick around these parts. So yeah, I mean, it was just very fascinating. I think was it either 7 or 8 number 7 or number 8 that year. I can't remember.
Yeah, he was number 7, and Franz went number 8 the next pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So it was, I don't know what it is, man, with the number 7 pick in the Warriors, but we just like having it. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, because you kind of go back, in the days, when Steph arrived, and then him and Monte Ellis didn't gel because Monte wanted to get out of town, and then it became Steph Curry's team, and all of a sudden he bulked up and he wasn't like a slender, and then you had Klay Thompson in the mix. Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, in my mind, obviously, the Warriors have hit and the Warriors have missed, just like every other team, right? But when they've hit, they've hit. And I think they, like, to your point, they have an opportunity to, hit, grand slam. Just depends, on how they get it done. But like you said, time's ticking down with these things, and the business, just about better than anyone at this point. Is there interest from the other side of Giannis wanting to possibly go somewhere else, maybe go to the Bay Area, or?
Yeah, I mean, I know that Giannis, whenever he's been out here, he's really liked it. He has an affinity for Steph Curry. Like, he really respects him and admires him. His wife is from, like, the Fresno area, so there's some Northern California ties there. When the All-Star game was held here last year, there was definitely sights and mentions of Giannis with Steph, including at Steph's party that he threw in the Thrive City area. I believe it was at Splash Bar. And like, these guys talk a lot. Like these guys are always talking. The All-Star break, everyone has eyes on who these guys are talking to. I go back to a couple of years ago when it was KD and Kyrie talking when KD was even still in the Warriors in that last very tumultuous season, obviously, here in Golden State. And people were like, oh yeah, like, they already know that they're going to team up together, like, somewhere in New York, whether it's the Knicks or whether it's Brooklyn. So these guys are just always talking. Team USA is huge for that. The All-Star game is huge for that. But Giannis really, really, really respects Steph, and vice versa. Steph, like, respects the way that Giannis goes about his business, who he is as a player and as a person as well, too. Obviously, his amazing backstory. So yeah, I think that there's a clear connection there. And the owner, Joe Lacob, has just always had his eyes on this possibility, because when a star like Giannis is in Milwaukee, you can only hope that his eyes veer towards a franchise like Golden State or like LA or Miami or New York, one of those bigger city type of franchises. And to me, like, the Giannis situation in Milwaukee has run its course. I mean, I think he's in his 13th season. What he's done for that franchise is amazing. It's incredible. Won them their first championship in something like 50 years, along with Kareem, who at the time was Lou Alcindor and didn't play forever there. He's gonna go down as the best player in that franchise's history. And so I think that if he does get moved, he will always be beloved in Milwaukee, but it just feels like the time is now. And I think that the Bucks can get their best value from him now instead of the offseason. But this also might be like their true, like, feeling out process too, and being like, all right, we're going to let you guys know, like, yeah, he's actually available. Give us your best offer, and we're going to see, all right, was this worth doing, or do we revisit this in the summer? So it's going to be interesting. Like, the final few days before the trade deadline, I'm just on my toes next to my phone, getting ready, calling, waiting for responses. That's the worst part of the job, is just reaching out and being like, please respond back to me. I know. So it's an interesting time for sure, man.
We're persistent people.
Yes, we are.
As journalists, we're persistent. Is there any Warriors player that you've ever covered that is that has a sort of like reputation, maybe publicly or throughout the media or whatever, but then you talk to this guy and it's just like the coolest person ever, and you could probably think of a handful of guys?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I mean, the first person that I want to bring up, well, actually, the first person I want to bring up is Steph Curry. And, like, yeah, his personality, everyone sees him as a great guy, and he really actually is. And so many of these superstars can put on a front for fans and for kids. I've never seen something like Steph. Like, it's ridiculous, man. Like how good he is with the fans, his time. I saw him this summer at Stanford for a golf event where I was talking to him, and he just got back from his China tour, his Asia tour. And I'm like, how are you awake right now? How are you doing this? Like, who controls your calendar, man? And he's like, yeah, I'm tired. I'm wiped. But he finds the time, and he actually cares about these kids. I mean, you see these kids that are passing him the ball during his pregame warmups, and it's like, how cool. And he's doing it on the road too. I was in Chicago around the trade deadline last year. I felt like the rails were going to fall on us. Like these fans are just, it's like the Beatles. I can't overemphasize how cool it is. So yeah, Steph really is that guy. Truly, like the best conversation I've ever had with him is about golf video games. I'm talking about Golden Tee. He's telling me about Tiger Woods 2013. Like, just a real conversation in the locker room after a game. And I'm like, what is going on? So that is just, he is that guy. Number two, I would say Draymond. Everyone just sees him as this fiery Draymond, suspensions and technical fouls and flagrants and yelling at Steve and all that is, yeah, it's true. It happens. We see it, of course. But I really also just truly like respect Draymond too, like knowing his backstory, knowing Saginaw, Michigan, all of that, him having to go off of that personality and where it's taken him. You know, I don't think that we talk about, he's a 6'5", 6'6" center. It's insane, like what he's actually done as a player. But, you know, I mentioned my daughter, and I did a story. This is probably the one that I love the most, is the fact that when I found out that I was going to be a first-time father, I actually spoke with Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, and Chris Paul, who were all in the Warriors at the time, who were dads, and kind of just like, hey, like, first advice for a first-time father, and basically like kind of like what you were like most scared of or something like that. And they were awesome. It was just like them as people again, right? Not as basketball players, but Draymond was so Draymond with it. He was so animated. I'm at his locker asking him, and he's like, oh, that's awesome. Gives me like daps me up, and he's like, one day, you know, they're just sitting there, the next day they're like bobblehead moving around, and next thing you know, they're talking to you, and I'm like, whoa, Draymond, you know, he's so animated telling me this, and I'm just smiling from ear to ear, just because like it's like, oh, this is so cool. I'm seeing Draymond as the dad, and we've seen his son like in the locker room and how he interacts with him, and so again, people first, right? And to see Draymond as a dad like that, really, really cool. The last person I'm going to give you is James Wiseman, because James Wiseman didn't work here as a player. We understand that. Like, and it was an unfortunate situation with health, with fit, all of that. So like, there's no reason to go down that road. But James was a good guy, like a good young man. And I'll never forget two things with him where he was at his locker and he didn't need to talk to us. We had just found out from Steve that he was about to be sent down to the G League again. And I think it was probably his last season with the Warriors. And you think about how hard that is for someone. And it goes back to where we can just see these guys as numbers, as someone on the line, next man up. All right. You don't see them really as people sometimes. It's hard it's hard because we're writing about the story, the people, the fit as a basketball team. And I'm seeing him in his locker room, and it's like, God, that must just hurt so bad. And he has to answer these questions. And it wasn't me who asked who asked about a question. That was a tough question. And I did the follow-up question to it. And he kind of, not snapped, but went a little more like, well, you know, and I'm like, oh, whoa, kind of like, hey, and I knew James wasn't like that. And right after, he was like, hey, I'm sorry, Dalton, like that, like this is just hard. And it was like, oh man, like it kind of, again, got me to step back real quick, and it was like, you didn't do anything wrong, man. Like, no, like he didn't cuss at me. He didn't make it personal. He just showed his emotions for 1 second. And then he apologized right after, when he did not need to do that. And that does not usually happen by any means. And so he did not need to do it. And I just remember being in that moment and being like, man, like this is tough. Like this guy has dealt with such crappy luck with his injuries. And then I saw him at Summer League, and he kind of double took me. And he's like, hey, how you doing, man? And I'm like, good to see you, James. And it was just a good guy. So again, someone where we see him as a quote unquote bust of a basketball player for the Warriors, number 2 overall pick. It did not work out. We can't hide from that. But just a good young man. So I more than anything wanted to kind of shout that out because a lot of people just see him as, oh, the worst pick in the franchise history and all that. And again, a lot of things just didn't work out in health, and that all happens. But a good young dude.
I also think, for, him playing one, I think it was 1 year at Memphis, and, the expectations of being that number 2 pick.
Yes.
It was kind of unfair on him in a way.
He played 3 games.
Especially being in a draft where you had such a polarizing figure already in LaMelo Ball, right? And everyone was like, "Oh, LaMelo Ball," and Steph Curry, and then we end up getting James Wiseman. Everybody's like, "What the heck?" So it's like, So I think it was just put in a weird situation from the jump.
Gets hurt the day of the draft again.
Oh man,
it goes from ACL to Achilles. So
poor guy.
You need to start him at the beginning of the season. It just didn't work out. It was bad circumstances for him too.
But I think you brought up a good point. Like, these people are allowed to be emotional, right?
Yes,
they're allowed to have emotions. They're not just like talking bots, who have to answer reporters' questions and dance around this and dance around that and have media training. Which, to agree, I always cherish the interviews I have that are more just like conversations, where it doesn't feel like I'm talking to a media trained professional and we already know what's on the record, what's off the record, stuff like that, and it's just like it just flows seamlessly, kind of like we're having a conversation right now, so it's like I always cherish those a bit more, just talking to the people.
Me too. Yep.
And we're not too I'm not too sure. So now that you've been covering the Warriors, and I know we've kind of talked off camera throughout the years about how you don't want to go down to Santa Clara and do Niners because that trip is just way too much from Petaluma. Yeah, I still have yet to be down there. By the way, I
don't blame you.
Boycotted going down there. I don't want to stay in like 3 hours of traffic, but but in terms of like living your dream job per se, growing up in Petaluma, like all the baseball and sports fandom and stuff like that. How do you like covering the Giants or Warriors better?
It's tough because again, the Warriors is more like my main beat, and I've kind of really been fortunate enough with that and to own that beat. I really like doing the minor league stuff like I was doing. Shoot, this was 6-7 years ago at this point, because you kind of just talked about the conversations, right? Like those guys aren't as media trained. Not many people really come out and talk to them in the first place. And when you show interest to them, they're like, yeah, I'll talk to you. Great. So like that was really, really fun. Baseball is different. It's a different game to cover. It's a different season to cover. You're doing like these in-season series compared to like basketball, obviously, right? Like you don't get that until the playoffs. Is so much different. Different even just how much time you get with them before the game and after and all of that. But I've really enjoyed covering the Warriors, and luckily we get to work with like the best PR team in the sport and probably in all sports, led by Raymond Ritter and his group. They've won multiple awards for that. So that I like remind myself about is like the access and how they treat the people and the players and the reporters is second to none. Being able to work and learn from someone like Steve Kerr too, as a head coach and as a person, obviously like that's something that I'll forever be grateful for. I was talking to a reporter like this year. We're on the road and we're just like, yeah, it's like basketball 101. Like whenever we get to talk to some of these guys, like you're learning. And that's what I've enjoyed actually about covering the Warriors and doing basketball is that baseball and football kind of became more of my thing, in high school, and grew up with basketball. And it's really like my biggest high school regret is stopping playing basketball, because I was just seeing it as like, oh, well, football and baseball and varsity and college. And it's like, you only get to do it once. You get 4 years to do it, which now I always tell like the kids, like play as many sports as possible for as long as you can. And so it's like I get to learn all the time with basketball, the growing game, to be able to learn from a coach like Steve, players like Steph and Draymond who have been around for so long. It's honestly really amazing to be on the Warriors beat, and the people that make up the Warriors beat, the other reporters, I've always got along with them. And that goes a long way too. When you are on the road and you see these guys as much as you see your wife, like that matters. So the Warriors beat is a great beat overall. And again, I think just being able to see it and to learn from coach like Steve and players like Steph and Draymond and so on and so forth, it's just a really, really great beat to cover.
Yeah. Couple more for you because I know you're such a busy guy, Dalton, but let's kind of have fun with this one here. We're going to go starting five.
Ooh.
So you're limited here. Starting five of Warriors all time. And we're just talking about the Warriors name. Doesn't have to be the city, just the Warriors name. Think of all the guys that have played for the Warriors, Warriors brand and Warriors franchise. You're taking five guys, doesn't matter the position. Talk to me. Who you got?
Okay, I'm starting with Steph. Steph as my point guard, of course. Draymond as my 4. Even though Draymond's gonna be part of it. I'm thinking he's gonna be my 4, my 5, to be honest with you, because I go Steph. Man, people want to say whatever they want about it. I got to put KD in there. Like his 3 years were some of the greatest 3 years that we've ever seen. Where it gets tricky is at the 2. Do you go Clay, Splash Brother, 2-way impact, all of that, obviously, or do you possibly go Chris Mullin, my coworker, Hall of Famer, great player?
Chris, if you're watching this, I just want you to know that he is debating putting you on his.
No. I'm debating him at the 2. Because I could kind of cheat the system and say, yeah, give me Wilt Chamberlain, Philadelphia Warriors, make him my 5. Obviously, like that's dominant. We get that. I'm going to stay with Golden State, number 1. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this. I'm not going to include Wilt Chamberlain because I was Philadelphia, and I'm not going to include like Rick Barry or anything like that. So I'm going to go Steph at my 1. I'm going to go Clay at my 2. I'm going to go Molly at my 3, and then I can go KD at my 4 and Draymond at my 5. I'm going modern day kind of small ball with that, where KD still gives you like the size and the height at the 4. He's 6'10", 6'11". He's 7 feet tall. Let's be real. The guy always lets himself shorter because he never wanted to be seen as a 4 or a 5. He can play the 2 or the 3, the 4, the 5, whatever he wants to do. He's KD. Clay's 2-way ability, and that's what's so, I'm trying to, again, not cuss, is like, it's so crappy about his injuries, is like, he misses peak. That's what sucks. It truly, truly sucks, is the last year when he got hurt in the 2019 finals, I think it was his first year ever on first team all defense. And he probably should have had more all defensive honors. That's what made the peanut butter and jelly between him and Steph work so great, is I hate just calling them the greatest shooting backcourt of all time. They were the best backcourt of all time because of Clay's defense, Steph's improved defense over the years, Steph's added muscle over the years. And that's what made it truly work. And it should have worked for so much longer. So that sucks. KD's 3 years were just insane and perfect, except for like the drama of the last year, obviously. Molly's Molly, like you just add all that shooting around then Draymond at your 5, still be able to control the ball in his hands too. Yeah, he's small, but his best true position is still center, even at 6'5", 6'6", and I want to make it a Golden State thing. So I'm going Steph, Clay, Molly, KD, Draymond.
This guy living back when the Warriors were down 2-1 in Cleveland in the finals, and then Steve Kerr switches it up.
You like that?
I do love it. And I don't know what this thing is about all these guys listing their wrong height. Like, for example, we just saw Diego Pavia is listed at 6 foot on Beautiful's website.
God, that was the
5'9". He's like my height, it's like 5'9".
I remember seeing him at like the Heisman stuff next to Julian Sand, like looking up, and Sand's like 6 feet, 6'1". Yeah. It's like, this guy,
no chance he's 6
no
foot.
chance.
No chance. I'm gonna go a little bit different from you.
Okay.
I'm gonna do a little bit different. I'm gonna go by eras a little bit. So I'm gonna go Steph at the 1.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go Mully at the 3. Still go Mully at the 3. I'm gonna go Jay Richardson at the 2.
Wow, Jay Richardson. Yeah, I like that.
2008, 2007, 2008. We believe. I was thinking about like
Yeah.
Davis or something like that. I was throwing some cheeky like Andres Biedrins in there. No, I'm just kidding. So what? Steph, Jay Rich, Mully. And then at the 4, I'm going to put Dre. And then at the 5, I'm going to go Philadelphia. I'm going to go Wilt.
Fair.
Wilt. The guy scored 100 points in 100 points in
pure domination. Imagine him and Steph like it's a joke. Like when it comes to at the rim and it comes to 3-point land, like you can't beat that.
Oh my goodness! Or you could go journeyman, go like Chris Webber. I'm just kidding.
That 1 year was amazing.
that one year. All right, last one for you. Growing up, we talked about, reading all the Sports Illustrateds, watching all Sports Centers, all that fun stuff. Were there any guys that whether it be the play-by-play realm or anything like that? Like I could tell you mine right off the bat, but we'll go with you. But in terms of like your heroes, guys that you looked up to, guys that you aspired to be on, just kind of who were the first names that came to mind?
Luckily for us here, we have so many people that we could pick out in the Bay Area. And I think about the voices, like growing up watching Giants baseball with Kruk and Kipe and then with John Miller and Dave Fleming and all of that. Like that's, I feel like that's just going to be like the soundtrack to my childhood with those guys and in the Barry years and all of that. So I can close my eyes and hear John Miller talking about Barry Bonds' home run at Yankee Stadium and it being in the top row off of Ted Lilly. And so that was just so lucky to have that as our soundtrack here in the Bay Area with those voices. Incredibly, incredibly lucky to be able to read people like Ray Ratto, and then to work with him, to read someone like Monty Poole and work with him too. Like so lucky as far as that goes here in the Bay Area. And we've just had a lot of great reporters, a lot of great writers, great columnists. I think about someone like Brian Murphy for
my man Murph.
Yeah, Murph is the man, and to have him on KNBR for so long, and then to know his background with the papers and all of that. Matt Mayoko. Talk about a pro's pro covering the Niners and getting to work with him, work alongside him on the Niners beat and know his background with the paper and all of that as well too. So yeah, we've been really lucky here in the Bay Area. And yeah, I've picked around nationally for sure. And the people that you would read in Sports Illustrated, the people that we now get to listen to on podcasts. I'm a big Dan Le Batard show fan. Pablo Torre, obviously, when it comes to the modern media, and someone who went from when Sports Illustrated was Sports Illustrated, and Pablo was someone who was a fact checker, and then became, a more of a reporter and features writer, and then got into this podcast realm. So that's like the evolution now of storytelling, right? Where I go, the state of journalism should be fantastic to me, and instead it's being cut dry way too much. And yeah, so I think again in the Bay Area, I didn't even add someone like a Marcus Thompson who getting to work with him, on the Warriors beat and learn from him too, even though it's different companies. Like that's incredible. So yeah, I think from a competition standpoint, I've been able to look at it and being like, wow, like I'm surrounded by some really, really good writers. And that's only made me, I think, rise and find that competitiveness that I've had as an athlete and bring it to my job now too. So I listed a ton of names there. But again, I think that in the Bay Area, we've been really lucky and fortunate with that. And to also be able to close our eyes and hear Kruk and Kipe and hear Greg Papa and hear all these amazing, amazing voices that other regions don't get to hear like we do.
No, not at all. And can I, you mentioned the Giants, soundtrack. Can I add one more name in there? Let's not forget the greatest of all, the Rennell Brooks Moon.
Yes. On. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow.
She is, so iconic and unique. And it's just like
another voice that can just ring in your ear forever.
I know, dude. Yeah. I know. And it's like just Miller on top of that. I always remember the call when It was Bonds against Gagne. You remember?
Yes. Oh my God,
man, that was ridiculous. That was such a good call.
God,
but yeah,
power right there is amazing.
And then Dave Fleming coming into the mix too, and going on ESPN and doing all this stuff. I mean, it's just so. We are spoiled. I think.
Yeah,
you know, and obviously now you got like T-Rob and doing that stuff, and Papa's now gone to the Niners and stuff like that. Which I think he's back, by the way. Congratulations, Papa. But yeah. Well, look, man. Unfortunately, things just we're busy guys. We got to end it at some point, or else we could be here forever.
I could talk to you for 4 more hours, but hey,
exactly 4 more hours. But look, Dalton, I really appreciate you finding the time, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the KO Convo today, my man.
Of course, yeah. I hope to do it again in the future. It was a ton of fun.